And we are live, Angie. Welcome, everybody, to the next workshop, Aptos workshop number 2. For those that missed the first one was with Brian, right? Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Brian.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
It was about getting started with Aptos. We went through a great workshop. If you missed that, definitely check it out. We are here today with Angie. She's going to show us basically building a full Dapp, right, with a front end, back end. She's going to take us through it. Brian had an amazing workshop. That's a hard act to follow, Angie. So, hopefully we have not to put too much pressure on you, but we're going to make it happen. Angie's super cool. I've been talking to her in the backstage for a few minutes as we're doing the sound check. You guys are going to have a good time. As usual, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll try to bring them up when we get a little break of whatever we're presenting. And then just a quick reminder, we do have the Moving on Aptos Writers Competition that did start this Monday. We did workshop 1 to get you introduction. And then today is the second one to get you finalized over the top if you're running out of ideas or you want to get something really technical. Submission deadline for that is Monday, the 22nd. So make sure all the weekend warriors, or you're going to do a grind this weekend, that we get that up and running. But enough of me talking. We want to hear what from Angie. Go ahead and give us a little introduction about yourself. Who is Angie, and what are you going to show us today?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Angie. I'm a software engineer working in Aptos. I'm in the dev platform team, and I help engineers to get on in our ecosystem. So I've been here for a year and a half. It has been a great journey. So welcome to join the journey as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And so I'm going to bring up your PowerPoint here onto stage.
Yes.
And there we go.
Okay. Okay, so if I make it too formal, please let me know, okay? Because this is like I prepared those slides. So today I'm going to talk about how to build on Aptos, how to build Dapp, including backend, frontend, and how they talk to each other in this today's presentation. And before that, so this presentation, I'm going to split that into 2 parts. The first part, I want to continue with Brian's effort and talking about the token standard on Aptos, because in my view, I think token standard is very unique on Aptos and is the foundation. If you want to build any variation, if you want to build like cool applications on Aptos, you need to get familiar with our token standard. So today I'm going to talk about Aptos standard, and the second part I will talk about like how to build a Dapp using those Aptos standard. And the third part I'm gonna promote our learning resources a little bit. Okay, so the first one, Aptos standard. So I wanted to start with our object. Object is a it's a relatively new standard that we had this since, oh, it's almost a year. I think it's last August. And object is a container for resources that are stored within a single address. So how I view it is that I know in Solidity that we pass address around, right? But object,
Angie,
you can, yes.
sorry, can I stop you? Can you make it bigger with the slideshow?
Oh,
Yeah, that way we can see
oh
it a
yeah, yeah,
little
yeah.
bit clearer. Yeah,
How about
that way
this?
we can. Yes,
Okay.
that should be a little clearer. If you guys can't see it, let me know. But that's the slide size, so there's not too much, but hopefully I can see it. All right, sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
No worries. So yeah, so object, it's a container. Like I'd like to see it as a typed address, so that it's an address. It's a container. You can put almost anything in it, but also it's typed. So when you pass the object around, you can do type check to see whether this is something you're expected. And so there are 3 different kinds of object. The first one is a normal object. This one is deletable and has a random address. The second one is my favorite. It's a named object. This one is not deletable. When you delete, you can only delete the metadata related to this object, but you can never delete the data itself. But the good thing for this is that it has a deterministic address. So every time it's very handy when you want to retrieve this object. For example, like if you create an object and use the seed as Yan, then you can like every time when you have to, even if you don't know the address of the object, you can always get the object by having the seed Yan. And the third one is a sticky object. this one is also not deletable and has a random address. So it's almost like a name address. It's just you don't have to come up with your name like the system, like it come up with a random seed for the sticky object. So that is sticky because it's not deletable, but you like there's no way you can retrieve by the name because the seed is random.
Angie, we have a question on here.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, 1 second. That was a little weird. Okay. So what's the difference of defining state with annotation like so? And then here is the annotation. It's a little hard to see here. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that makes sense to you, if you could see it in the chat.
Mm-hmm. You mean resource? So does is this question about what is the annotation here, like the resource group member?
Hmm. I believe so.
I yeah. So I think so. Resource is something. It's something we put. It's a state we put in address, right? And resource group is some. It's a optimization when we utilize memory by having resources in one resource group. We get to like make them neighbors so that it's easier to retrieve those resources because they're closer to each other.
Gotcha. Nice, nice. James throwing out the crazy questions with code out here. So go for it, Angie. Go for it.
Okay, yeah. So that's object, and there are a few nice things about object. The first one I want to mention is that the separation of ownership and data location. So normally, so when you own a thing, when you own a resource, this resource is under your account, right? So like they share the same address as your account. But in objects world, like we separate this ownership concept and the data location. Every object stay in a global storage. That means it has its own address, and the ownership is only a reference in the data structure. So like for example, like when I have an object and I want to change the ownership to Billy, I just need to update that reference instead of actually moving these things around. So that's very efficient and that's very easy to use when we do implementation. And the second one is capacity. No, it's capability. Sorry, that's a typo there. So there are four types of capabilities we can enable. It's delete, extend, transfer, and create signer. So I think the first three are easier to understand. The create the create signer thing, I like to think that as create a permission. So every time every time when you want to use this object, you need to have permission, right? And create signer is that create that permission, and you can store that somewhere. So that, like for example, you can store that in the extension ref. So later time, if you want to use control this object, you can always retrieve it from the extend ref to control this object. So because of those, it seems a little bit abstract here with those four capabilities. But in the later time when we start to implement things, you can see those are very handy and very like add a lot of flexibilities when we implement. And the next one is composability. I like this a lot because it provides a lot of possibilities when we build an app. So what's composability? That means me as a person, like as account, I can own an object, but also an object can own another object too. So for example, like we have in Aptos, we have ANS, like Aptos Name Service. Everyone can have a domain name, like you can purchase a domain name on Aptos. And also you have a domain name, you can have a subdomain. And this subdomain is actually like it can be owned by the domain. That create a very nice, like very elegant tree structure because the owner get to control everything they own, like the objects they own, right? So I don't when I own a subdomain, I don't really own that, but I own the domain, which owns the subdomain. This create a lot of possibilities, and it has very elegant applications when you actually need to use those Aptos names. Mm, the next one. Okay, so we've spent some time to talk about object. Now we want to talk about two things, fungible asset and digital asset, which are based on which are implement on the top of object. So what's fungible asset? You can see that as token in other chains. A fungible asset is a type of asset that is interchangeable and indistinguishable from other assets of the same kind. So you can see that's like currency, like stock. It could be like food. It could be like, I don't know, hearts in games in game setting. So when we create, this is the implementation. So I will just talk about the high level of the concept. When we create a fungible asset, we actually create two objects. One is the fungible asset collection itself, like it's an object, but it will have all the metadata of this fungible asset. And also we will create another object called primary fungible store in under the which is owned by the FA fungible asset holder. This primary fungible store, it's just like a balance. It will represent how many fungible assets you have. So if let's say if I have a fungible asset as a currency, you can imagine that I have a place to put all the metadata in one object, and I have multiple stores under different people's account. So all the balance you can retrieve from your account itself instead of getting it from a unified table.
Quick couple questions on here. We have one from Native.
Yes.
So composability, is that the nesting hash store that Brian mentioned on the last workshop?
Is the nesting hash store what Brian mentioned? I think the nesting. Oh, I see. I see what you mean. I think Brian mentioned the nested structure, right? This is something different, like the way I. The, sorry.
It's okay. Interesting question
Yeah.
on this. Okay.
Sorry, there was a construction guy.
No worries.
Um,
Live
right. So I
coding.
think, yeah, live coding. So Brian was talking about the nested structure, and here when I talk about next, it's more about the ownership structure. So like I can own an object, and the object can own another thing. It's not about, it's not in the struct, but it's in the ownership. You can think that as like a linked list of ownership.
That brings me to my next question, like just understanding this token system. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
equivaling it to like an ERC20, right? And then the smart
Mm-hmm.
contract keeps the balance for the metadata. So the way it works here in the wallet, so the metadata is stored where? In the contract or in my wallet in the tokens?
So there are two parts of the metadata. The metadata of this fungible asset itself is
Hmm.
not stored in a contract, but it's stored in an object. I think that's a fundamental difference between us and EVM. Is that
Good.
so when we talk about storage, the storage happens in the contract on EVM, right? But
Right.
like
Right.
here, we store things like it's always global storage. So we store things in object. That's I think that's one difference. Like it's a conceptual difference from us and EVM.
Got it.
And
Got it.
the the metadata here we will store that in two different places. Let's say if you mint a fungible asset, if you create a fungible asset, that means you create this type of currency, right? The type information will store in an object, while the balance will store in another object, which is owned by your account.
Got
And
it.
when you, let's say when you transfer this fungible asset to me, my account, it will create a primary fungible store, which is another object under my account too. So every time when you transfer, like we will have a new storage with the balance, the metadata of the balance in someone's account. But we will have a place like that object will store the original information, like the metadata of that fungible asset in an individual object.
Got it. We have a few more questions on here. So,
Mm-hmm.
how is secondary fungible store used in a DEX? A lot of questions here.
How, sorry, how it disappeared?
Oh, oh, sorry. Let me put that
Oh,
in there.
How secondary fungible asset using DEX. So I'd like to think that as checking account, saving account. So we store, like we save US dollars in, let's say, Citibank, right? But like they're all US dollars, but you can save that in saving account, checking account, brokerage account. So I think the secondary fungible assets are something to use at this, to use like that. You have the same currency, but you put that into different balances for different usage.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
And then one other question right here.
Yes.
Can we have fungible asset in a non-fungible asset? And
Mm-hmm.
why do we have primary and secondary storage? Why are we separating
Uh-huh.
the metadata?
Can we
So I guess
have
we're
a
getting into the
function?
structure. Yeah, we're getting into the structure of how this
Mm-hmm.
works. Oops.
Yes, I think we can have a fungible asset in a non-fungible asset. I think you are I think you are talking about something we call semi-fungible asset, which like it's itself it's a, how to say that? It's like we call it fungible token, so it has a nice thing of NFT, but like it's not unique. We do have that standard, but like it's not widely used. It's possible to implement in our system. And the second one, why do we have primary and secondary storage? That's the reason I just explained. Like for example, we want to have saving and checking account in like within US dollar in one account. So like we have different usage for different balances.
Gotcha. As we
Does that?
progress through the slides and get into the workshop, I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these questions may be answered as we go. So as they come in,
Yeah.
I'll kind of reserve them a little bit so we can keep the
Mm-hmm.
flow going and then get you going. But yeah, thank you, Angie, for the
Yeah, of
question.
course. And I don't mind like answer questions on the way. 'Cause-
We can keep going. I'll store it all
Okay.
together and then we'll get going.
Okay, great. So the third one I want to talk about is the digital asset, which is NFT in the crypto world. So digital asset is it's also implement on the top of object to create an NFT. We like the way we do it is that we first create a collection. So all the tokens need to under one collection. We create a collection, and all the the collection itself will create all the tokens, which is NFTs under the structure. So it's like two layers. If you look at the whole thing, collection is an object, and this collection will create all the tokens. All the tokens will be under those collection. And when we create those collections, if you still remember the compatibilities I talked about in object, we can have those extend like delete ref, so that this collection will own the power, the creator power to control those tokens. So tokens can be easily extended with custom data. This is something nice about object because you can always store extra resources inside the object. That means you can put nice traits about this NFT. For example, like if you have an NFT that you want to give it a certain level, like different level based on different parameters, you can put that as a resource in the NFT. So we will actually showcase that later in the Dapp implementation. And the transfer are simply a reference update. Yeah, because it's built on the top of object, right? So we mentioned that the ownership is separated from the address. So when you want to transfer the NFT, which is an object, it's just a reference update. And the rec transfer is allowed because it's, like it's just a reference. So you just like, if I own an NFT, you own an NFT, we don't like, when I transfer to you, we don't have to go into any third party. We can just do that. And NFT can own another NFT, which is the composability. This add a lot of nice features, like we will showcase later. That, for example, if I have a knight and I have as an NFT, and I have like a sword as another NFT, I can actually make the knight to own the sword, so that that could change some like custom data that can change some field of this knight NFT to increase the defense point, something like that. So having those, if you think about those four capabilities, by having combination of those, we can create almost unlimited applications on the top of it. And the last one is soulbound token can be easily supported because yeah, it comes back to the composability. One is transfer ref. So once we own this transfer ref, we can kind of lock the rec transfer so that if I own a token, I won't be able to transfer to a third person, which is nice when we want to implement like something like certificate or like attending evidence for events. Okay, so now we come to the second part. I think before we come to the second part, do we have any questions there?
Yes, we have a couple in there, and I think we're going to get to that in a little bit, but I think the
Mm-hmm.
difference, similar difference between a fungible asset and an ERC 1155, um, like it's kind of like tokens. They're ultimately tokens, but NFTs with a
Mm-hmm.
URI in a sense, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
that's something I mentioned. So like we do have this ERC 1155 uh uh implementation that you can kind of combine, like you can implement it. We call this semi NFT. So you can implement something under a collection which has a URI, has all the nice things about NFT, but in the same time it's not unique. Like it can be fungible.
Right. And then
I
one other question.
can
Oh, yes.
I
I know
like
we're gonna
I
cover that. We're gonna cover that in the workshop because I looked a sneak peek in the
yeah.
workshop. But then a real interesting question is if a
Um,
non-fungible token is owning a fungible token, when you move the non-fungible, does the ownership of the fungible token move with it as well?
uh I'm not sure if I understand this question, but let me assume that we let's say if this non-fungible token owns the fungible token, and if we move around the non-fungible token, will the fungible token move too? Theoretically, yes, because the like you can see the beginning of this ownership tree changed. So technically, the owner of this fungible token never changed. It's always a non-fungible token, but the owner actually changed because now the one who can control changed because that it depends on the owner of this non-fungible token.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other questions, but I think it'll get knocked out when we get into the example depth. So we'll just keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now I want to introduce this AptosGachi, which means Aptos plus Tamagotchi. So we started this toy demo in the internal hackathon last year, and we found it's really fun, and it's actually very simple, like the implementation. We have this template, and we can implement almost infinite features on the top of this AptosGachi toy. So we started to use this as in educational purpose. We want to showcase this. We want to use this demo to showcase our token standards, to showcase our new technology. Let me see if I can actually share this. Uh, can you see the demo?
Not yet. You'll probably have to reshare it on there.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me know and I'll queue it up on the screen. I love Tamagotchi. Well, I don't love Tamagotchi, but I love it. My niece, had me take care of her Tamagotchi because she had to travel and she forgot it. So then I had to, like, keep
Mhm.
it alive, and then I think I forgot for a couple days, and then it died. So having to
Uh-huh.
explain that to my niece was horrible. So, yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, I used to love Tamagotchi when I was a kid, so it's always a pleasure to work on this.
It added a lot of stress to my life.
So like you can see, I own a Tamagotchi here. It's a small, cute, a little bit creepy animal, and you can actually play with it. I don't know if you can see the pop up window of my Petra, but I need to
No.
prove. Like I will approve. It's actually a transaction, on-chain transaction. When I play with it, the energy point will decrease, and I can also feed. I haven't opened this toy project for a long time,
For those that
so
don't know what Tamagotchi is, it's basically a pet that you have, and you have to feed it
mm,
daily or weekly. I forget, but you have to
yeah.
basically take care of it, and feeding it is the best way to to keep it alive and then to nurture it. So I think on a daily, I think on the app, is it daily or weekly that you have to feed
Mm-hmm.
your AptosGachi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think not just daily, like after a few, like almost every few hours. If you don't know, that means you're too young.
Oh man, that's a it's a very high commitment right here. Very needy.
Yes, yes, very needy.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah, so like this is the live demo. I just want to show like in this demo, I want to show how you can translate those token standards and the capabilities we talk about into real life features. Because like as a Dapp developers, we only care about those features, right? So you can see we have play, feed, by food, by accessory. The food here is fungible token and the accessory here is NFT. And you can wear those accessories. That's how when we call like the composability of NFT. So yeah, let me go back to my
yeah.
slides.
Just to recap that, so the actual AptosGachi is the NFT, the non-fungible token, and then we're going to be feeding it with the fungible tokens, right? Like basically,
Yes.
it's food is food, but your
Hmm.
AptosGachi is a unique one.
Yes.
Yeah, let's bring us back.
Um, right. So this slide actually shows that. So in this, if you look at this screen, you can spot few things. So we have the AptosGachi itself as NFT. We have like accessories, which are NFTs as well. Like we have bow ties, glasses, like hair tie, necklace, those kind of things. And you can like do compose. You can use the composability to build like nice, cute composition. You can like dress up your Tamagotchi. And we have food here as like the apples as the fungible asset. And we will talk about and also like it doesn't show here, but AptosGachi itself is actually a soulbound token. That means you can only have like that means like when you have it, you own it. Like there's no way you can get rid of it, just like the real kids.
Yeah.
So this is like we can later if we have the chance, maybe we can look at the GitHub repo itself. But here I twin screen the structure of the staff repo here. So you can see we have a front end directory, we have a move directory, and in the source we have like AptosGachi that move is the main contract of this AptosGachi, and we also have food that move which implement the fungible assets there. And because they are in one package, so they can actually there are nice things about those two contracts in one package. That means you can implement friend functions that can be called by each other, but like outside of this, it's not public. Outside of this package, it cannot be called. So first, AptosGachi as digital assets. First of all, we want to define the NFT struct. So here you can see I put a lot of like not a lot. I put few custom areas there. Like we put name, birthday, which means like we did implement here, but having this birthday feature, that means that AptosGachi can actually evolve. It can actually grow up when you own it like the longer time. And we have energy points. We have parts which shows up. Well, so I didn't show up there, but like in the beginning when you mint the AptosGachi, you can actually so there are different parts like different ears, different eyes, different face shape, like different body. So those are like we use our randomness feature, on-chain randomness feature to choose those parts. So we make sure that you get not so unique, but like hopefully it's very unique AptosGachi there. And also we have the mutator ref. This is the part that we store the signer. Remember, like the permission in this. So like later on, if you want to revise AptosGachi, the feature of AptosGachi, we are able to do that. And also we have this burn ref. That means if you want to kill a AptosGachi, you are able to do that too. But please don't. So in the beginning, we want to like for the NFT, we want to create the collection. The way we could create the collection, you can see that here we create an unlimited collection. with the creator, which is it could be the contract itself, and it could be like under my account, and like few areas, description, name, like URI, which are common for NFT. And this is when we already create a collection. Every time when we want to mint a new NFT, we have to create a new token under this under this collection. And we will have the collection name, description, URI, like everything, just like standard NFT here. And also you can see we have a struct called AptosGachi, and we put this AptosGachi struct under the same address. That means we will have those features. We like those are the custom areas we put into this object. And the last line is transfer with ref. So we just use if you remember, we use the transfer ref as the power to transfer. So this transfer ref gives you the power that even if you are not the owner of the current owner of the NFT, but as soon as you get this transfer ref, you can transfer the NFT around. That gives the creator of this NFT a nice power to use, a nice flexibility to use. And the next part is food as fungible asset. So here, if you still remember, we have apples as the food for those AptosGachi. And the way we implement that is that first we create, like we call this function called create primary store enabled fungible asset. What does that mean? That means like we don't only create this fungible, like if you remember the structure, we have the metadata of the fungible asset itself, and we also create the primary store, and we give the permission in this like in this function, we give the permission to create a primary store every time when you transfer this fungible asset to a new person. So that means even Billy doesn't have this fungible asset before. When I transfer this apple to Billy, a primary store will automatically created under Billy's account, so that Billy can hold that balance as well without further action.
I have a
Yeah.
quick question about that, and it was kind
Yes.
of the anti-spam thing that Brian mentioned before, because I have to set permissions in my wallet not to get a token. So if you were to transfer me the Apple, like what kind of permissions happen in there if it's like do I have to accept that, or how does that work?
So unfortunately, you have to get it. So
Okay.
it's like I think it could be a spam, but
Yeah.
it's like uh so it's like that. So like when we talk about objects, like we talk about the ownership is just a reference, right?
Hmm.
So theoretically, I can create a lot of like random objects and name the owner as you, and we
Yeah.
can claim that you own all the objects, right? But if you think about this ownership, it's like one way. So this object is aware that its owner is you, and from your account point of view, you are not aware of those, right?
Got it.
So you can always filter those things out when we like indexing things.
Makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes. And where were we? And you can see we have the mint ref here, burn ref here. That means that gives us the ability to mint more fungible assets, to mint more fungible assets and burn assets. So that if you translate this back to our app, when we mint, that means we are like the user is purchasing more apples, and we burn. That means the AptosGachi is consuming those apples. Yeah, so I think there are three, like when we talk about fungible assets, we're actually only talk about three functions. The first one is get a balance, because like if you have a front end app, you will always need to get the current balance of a fungible asset. And the second one is mint food. As I said, it's like in our AptosGachi app, it's purchasing the apple. And the third one is burn food. It's like consuming, if you have like it's like consuming the fungible asset in our app. It's like eating those apples. Yeah, so this is the contract address. I want to show you, like I think this is a very important part when we when we developing smart contracts on Aptos. Can you see this Explorer screen?
As you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and post the GitHub repo on there so people can review it on there. It is
Okay,
a full
yeah.
stack. Was this made with the CLI together? So like it comes out with the front end and smart contract package
Yes.
repo? Yes. So you could just fork this and then, download the dependencies and then just get it working out of the box. And then also while we're doing that, we did have a question of like, how much does it cost to create a collection on Aptos? Like for how much did it cost to deploy this?
It's so little. It's like 0 point many zero. Like I can't even recognize. It's like it's some cost you can ignore.
Got
I
it.
could say that. Yeah.
It's like almost free. It's like
Yeah, it's
almost
almost
Aptos is
free.
paying you. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
We are actually paying you if you start to build a app. Like please apply
yeah,
to our grant registry to create
definitely.
apps on our ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as go ahead, and we have a couple other questions on the pipeline, but go on with the Explorer.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to show you that if you look at the contract, so we just talk about the contract we create on Aptos, right? And you can deploy that in an address. And in this Explore, this explore.aptos.lab, aptoslabs.com, you can actually see like what's under this account. So you can see the modules, which is the code. Like you can see we have main, which is the AptosGachi contract that we showcase. I think I can post this in the chat too.
Yeah, you can put it in the private and I can put it on the main on here.
Okay.
As you're doing that, we have one question on there that I want to see. Like there's foods, right? So the fungible
Mm-hmm.
tokens are food. So Apple, could you have more than one fruit in the token, or should you make different fungible tokens for each fruit?
So you can always make as many as different kind of food. You even in one contract. So like if you look at the contract, one can you see the food here?
Let me
So
just
when
see
we
here.
create food, it's like we create the food collection here, right? And you can always create multiple collections there so that you don't have like there's no limitation for you to just create one single kind of food or a single fungible asset in one contract. You can create as many as possible.
Nice, nice. That's
Yeah.
interesting on there. And
And
then
sorry, I just can't stop to promote our product. We also
ah,
like if you check, we have a launch pad to help you to it's just CLI comments. We can like using that CLI comments, you can create as many as fungible assets just as a click. It's very easy, like no smart contract related, just CLI contract. I
nice,
will I will try to send out that information somewhere after
nice.
this. Yes. And do you have other questions?
There is one. What is the native token of Aptos, and how does one send transaction with value like Ethereum? So I think that's a front end question, right? Like in Ethers, you kind of send like the transaction, and then you do another one like in like dot value or value colon, and then the amount of ETH.
Mm-hmm.
In Aptos, how do you do that? I guess would be the question. Hopefully, I'm right.
All right. What is? Oh, it's the same one with the
Yeah.
with value. So I think the native token. Are you talking about APT?
I think so.
Yeah. So I think APT. So I'll talk a little bit about the standard history. So so before fungible asset, we have an now deprecate standard called coin. APT is implemented by coin. But now, like in the foresee future, we want to move everything from coin to fungible asset. And APT will be the last one we move because it's the most widely used one in our ecosystem, right? So now APT is still coin. When you transfer, how does one send this value? So when you transfer, you still transfer that under the account under primary stores, but when it got moved to fungible asset, it will be just it's still like it's just a balance like it's like balance one adding balance one decreasing subject the balance, But the difference between Ethereum and us is that the balance on if EVM is stored in the contract, while our balance is stored in our account. I think that's the main difference. Does that answer your question?
I think so. And I think you answered the other question too of using coin
Mm-hmm.
versus the legacy coin versus the native token. So for fungible assets. So you cover you killed two birds with one stone.
Yes,
Well done.
please
Yeah.
use fungible asset because we are going to so we are actually going through a coin to fungible asset migration. You don't have to do anything if you implement coin before.
Yeah.
It will automatically transfer to fungible asset. But if you plan to implement anything now, please use fungible asset because it's in my point of view, I think it's easier to use, and that's the most
Yeah.
important thing.
Nice. Good question here. Is an equivalent of hard hat for Aptos. And I think it's like the CLI, right? Like the CLI that we were using in the last demo on there.
Uh-huh.
And then kind of talked about IDEs. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So yes, actually, so we are not yet, but almost there. So we are starting to developing a new tool to similar to Hardhat, so you can do interactive developing there. But before that, I think Explorer is something nice, nice alternative. So you cannot developing on the top of, on it directly, but you can see the result. Like you can actually run. Let me show you. You can actually run those modules directly from here without a front end. So that means you can test your smart contract without developing your front end.
Nice. I like that
Yep.
a lot.
Hmm.
A
I
lot.
love that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just before everybody heads out, I know we're getting close to the ends of the workshop, but I wanted to
Hmm.
have this workshop survey for everybody. I know it's
Hmm.
hard to chase everybody when they're walking out the door when the workshop's over. So I'm throwing it in the chat now. If you can fill that out, it is great. It helps developer DAO, helps Angie, help the Aptos team
Hmm.
get any feedback on there. So Angie's such a sweetie, so it's hard to say. But yeah, go on, go on.
Yeah, say the things about me, please. And so I want to in the last part of this presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit about the work we are doing called Aptos Learn. So on Aptos Learn, we view it as the first step for users to come to Aptos. If you are lack of idea, you don't know what to build, you don't know how to build, you can go to this website and see all the nice tutorials and examples we have. Because as a developer myself, the first thing when I learn a new language, when I get into a new environment, the first thing I would do is to see if there's anything I can copy instead of just learn real language. And I think I'm not alone there. So for example, you can actually see AptosGachi here as a tutorial. So in this tutorial, you can see the demo. You can actually fork the code and you can see all the token standards I talk about in this tutorial. Not just AptosGachi, we have NFT marketplace. We have the launchpad I was talking about. We have fungible assets. We have on-chain randomness. All the nice features. You can explore all the nice features, standards, and technology on Aptos through Aptos Learn. Yes.
Can
Yeah.
you paste that link so I can paste it on the main chat? Also, just a reminder,
Sure.
I'm gonna paste down the Moving on Aptos writing contest on there for all
Mm-hmm.
those that technical writers out there. This is a lot of information to swallow. I know we had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
questions with the fungible assets, so
Mm-hmm.
definitely follow up on here.
Yes.
Having the course is super awesome because there's tons of references. I learned from examples, so I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
doc reader, so to say, but I like reading
Yeah.
the differences of certain things like, oh, this is the way they implied it this way. And then with a different example, they did it this way. And I learn it by the differences. So having multiple options to choose from is really a great way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to paste down there, learn Aptos
Mm-hmm.
Labs, aptoslabs.com
Yeah.
to check that out. So it's a very useful tool, just having multiple tutorials.
Yeah. And I also paste in the private chat, I paste our developer forum link there. If you have any questions that I didn't get to answer in this presentation, please please ask your questions there in the developer discussion, and we will answer those questions in the fastest fashion.
Gotcha. Is that the best place for all the questions? Is that the go-to place to search for existing questions that they may have?
Yes, there are a lot of questions like I like even myself haven't think of before. So like I'd like even if when I don't have questions, I'd like to just browse those discussions to see if there's anything new, like everything I haven't thought about. It's a very great place to learn.
Nice. So actually in the code, I just had a quick question. Well, maybe not so quick, but I'm not sure. Inside there,
Go ahead.
I saw, digging through the code, doing what I do, I saw a little battle struct. So in
Mm-hmm.
essence, like you could almost put your NFTs to fight each other, and
Yep.
theoretically. So as a user, it's a little interesting to me because ownership is based on the wallet. How would I find another, and like if I minted an NFT, you minted an NFT, how would I find someone to fight? I guess, or start a battle with? Like, how does that
Mm-hmm.
work? I can't Can I search the contract for owners, or like how does that work?
So first of all, yes, like if you have an NFT, you can find the owner of the NFT and like find the person to fight. And second, I feel like this is less a smart contract level thing. It's more like the Dapp level thing. So
Mm,
imagine like if you think about the AptosGachi app. Like if I add a battle feature there just to showcase, right? But if it's a real game, I imagine we will have like an arena thing, and
mm.
in that setting, you can find all the available NFT or all the available players to fight with you. I think that's this is like business logic. That depends on how you design your game.
Well, I mean, like as a front end user, like for the front end,
Hmm.
do I am I able to find all the NFTs minted to the smart contract, or do I have to scan all the wallets to see who the owners are? Like, can I find it
Uh,
just through the single call of the contract?
not the contract, but yes and no. So
Got it.
like through different implementation, you can actually like through it's possible like only by looking at the contract, you can get all the owner of the AptosGachi. The easiest way I can think of right now is that having a smart table to store all the information there, right? Like in the contract or in an object. And that is not a way we implement here because we want to like if you go to so this is actually the second episode of AptosGachi tutorial. If you go to the first episode, you can see how we use our indexer client to gather all the information for all the owners uh, who owns an AptosGachi. Like we didn't use the previous implementation we talked about. It's just because we want to showcase the indexer.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool on there. Do you have any more slides? Otherwise, I have more questions, but I'm going to wait for it till you're done.
I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, okay. So this one's about the NFT structures and then having
Mm-hmm.
assets to have ownership. So I struggle with this a lot in like ERC 721 standards of having ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So I would make an NFT that, whatever, a character, and then having a sword
Mm-hmm.
as an 1155. I could send that 1155 to the ERC 721 contract, and it would have ownership. My problem
Mm-hmm.
would be updating that URI on there. So, like, how does
Mm-hmm.
Aptos handle that? Like, if you have a bow tie, how does that
Mm-hmm.
affect the URI interface? Like, does the URI get updated, or is there some kind of like weird module where I can change the visual appearance of it? That's really interesting to me for gaming and stuff.
Yeah, I think like I thought about this actually. So if you look at the AptosGachi, like you hit my weakness. If you look
Yeah.
at the demo of AptosGachi, we didn't update. So I think there are two places to update
Yeah.
the image, right?
Yeah.
One is in your app. In your app, you can always do the search. You can always check the
Mm,
ownership. So like you can do custom logic. So in our app, if you like change the ownership, like this AptosGachi owner bow tie, we will like the when the image is rendered, we will like check those ownership and show you an AptosGachi with a bow tie. But that's customized. Like we didn't
right.
change the URL. So the other place you will want to update is your wallet. So we are hoping the wallet can kind of recognize this ownership chain, but it's not
Mm,
yet. So like we have to, I think, let me share this. So I
that's pretty
actually,
interesting. Yeah.
I check about this. So like we have a function called where accessory. Am I sharing this Explorer tab?
I see this. Yes. Yes. Here, let me
Right.
make this a little bit
So
bigger.
So here, like if you look at the where accessory function, we are
Mhm.
actually transfer the ownership of the NFT accessory NFT here, and you will have to like update the URL here
Got
as
it.
the like your own customized logic. That's two ways I can think of
Right. Yeah,
to
it's actually really
implement that.
creative
Mm-hmm.
for the front end, right? To see what the
Mm-hmm.
ownership, because it has a single place to check. It doesn't have to check
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of contracts because you could do it right from the wallet. And depending
Right.
what ownership you have,
Right.
then you can display that in the front end, which is actually really nice
Uh-huh.
because it saves you on smart contract logic too. So I like that
Right.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think object itself and like our digital asset, the NFT and fungible assets, it
Yeah.
provide a lot of flexibilities like for people
Yeah.
to implement. So you can really be creative there.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I was very limited on the EVM of like trying to create
Mm-hmm.
something similar right here. I like the
Mm-hmm.
way this is handled in Aptos. And oh,
Mm-hmm.
we have another question. We have the questions rolling in now. So do we have IDs for NFTs like or any struct? Saw some examples when you use move to, you specify the type of the struct and amount. But what if we want to specify a specific object?
uh, I suppose you are talking about how to retrieve a specific object. So as I said before, like when you create a token, you can create a name token. That's the way, like if you look at the code of AptosGachi, that's the way we do it. Is that we create let me show you. Mm, Here, like we uh on line 130, we actually create a name token. And we pass in a name there, like get AptosGachi token name. It's actually, I think it's the address plus something to make it to create a unique string. So this unique string, like if you so let's say if it's my wallet address, and every time you need to get the specific object, you can always use this seed to retrieve. I don't know if I have. Oh yeah, here like so you can see get AptosGachi address, and you can get the token address by sending the token name, like which is the C when we create it back, and get the token address, get the object address there.
Awesome. Again, if you have any
Mm-hmm.
other questions, we have the GitHub discussions panel. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to dive deeper into the code or get into specifics, maybe for your technical article, or if you're building
Mm-hmm.
something in Aptos, definitely start the discussion there. I'm pretty sure
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff that you can search that people may have asked already, but
Mm-hmm.
they're taking advantage of you since you're live. So, it's so cool. Again, I'm going to drop the survey one more time just as a reminder for that, just in case for anybody watching or that came in late that missed the survey. This is
Mm-hmm.
feedback for Developer DAO, for Aptos team to let us know how we're doing, if everything made sense. If you're excited about Aptos, let us know or what we can do to improve.
Yes. And also, lastly, I want to promote one more thing is our dev doc. Like I share the screen here. It's really like, and I also post a link in the private chat. It's a really cool. Like we just revamped the whole doc. You can see if you want to learn more about like our token standard, you can see everything there. Like we have code snippets to show the real implementation there, and we show like the structure. We show like how you can use those collections. And after you learn from those, if you want to see real world demo, like real world example, you can go back to Aptos Learn to see how those codes are, composed with each other.
I just posted the link to the chat as well. That was
Thank
kind of the
you.
first place I went into when I was
Mm-hmm.
searching like developers for Aptos. So it was really good. Actually, I went through it really quick to try to get an understanding. I like to know a little bit about what I'm like walking into when I get into a workshop. So it
Mm-hmm.
was actually really, really good. Probably one of the better doc structures that I've read through. So really awesome. Kudos to the Aptos team on that.
Yes.
Yeah, because I read docs like more than I want to, and I like to get to the point right away. So this was really helpful. Really helpful.
Mhm. Yeah. And our goal, like we really want to help our developers. Our goal is to to give the best developer experience in the crypto world. So if you have any feedback, we are eager to know your feedback. If you think like you're looking for something, you think our doc or our learn site is lack of something, please let us know. Please fill the survey, or you can just post in the dev discussion, and we will surely improve.
Awesome. I don't know if there's any other questions. Richard Ben, that is super helpful. So
Hmm.
I learned a lot more about Aptos than I thought I ever would in a couple workshops, like literally in 2 days. I feel pretty solid on there. I'm still a
Hmm.
little bit 90% there on the fungible asset aspect of it, like with the dual like metadata, but
Hmm.
pretty solid. And yeah, like I get it. So I'm really excited to see what the technical breakdowns of this, and seeing what people come up with, how creative they can go. Again, just a reminder, we have, the move with Aptos. That is, submission dates are due on Monday. So make sure, if you're grinding it on the weekend, make sure to use the resources for the GitHub discussions. Make sure to reach out to the team if you have any questions. There's a ton of content to go back with. If you missed the first workshop, we have it on the Developer DAO YouTube. This workshop is pretty much streaming live and will be available within 2 minutes of closing it out. So you have this place to reference. And then you have the GitHub discussions, you have the code. You got a lot. There's a lot to swallow on there. So you have a couple days to like come up with your ideas and shoot it out there.
Hmm.
Again, if you have any questions about Developer DAO contest, definitely click on the links and you can reach out to the Developer DAO team. If not, hit the Aptos team. They're the most technical about Aptos, but thank you so much, Angie. I appreciate it. This was really, really good, very informative. It's so much to swallow, but like I love
Oh.
it.
Thank you, Billy. That was really nice to chat with you.
Of course, of course. A pleasure as always. And with that, thank you so much. And we're heading off stream.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.